12 miles outside of Indiana, PA, a baby fawn stumbles around Anne Van Dyke's kitchen as it tries to adjust to its new surroundings. With dozens of baby possums and squirrels lining the nursery, this new little guy is in for plenty of exciting adventures. He will be rehabilitated here for several weeks before he and all of his new bunkmates are released. Somewhere around here is a goose who can't wait to say hello and welcome this new fawn to Kritter Camp. Since 1983, Anne and her husband have helped hundreds of animals who were injured or without mothers to become rehabilitated so that they could be reintroduced into the wild.
I've always been around animals, more like dogs and cats. We used to raise boxers and Bostons. But 3 weeks after we moved in, I guess somebody knew about me ahead of time because the game warden showed up in the driveway with a baby raccoon that needed a mother, and I didn't even know you could do this kind of thing, and from that moment on, though, that's what I've been doing.
Kritter Camp is a licensed wildlife rehabilitation facility dedicated to providing care to the orphaned, injured, sick, and displaced wildlife for the purpose of giving them a second chance so that one day they can be released back into the wild. This donation-run facility ensures that all of Kritter Camp residents receive proper medical attention and some TLC before they are ready to go home.
Well, this is basically where they all start out in the kitchen, and they get a good going over and an exam either in the garage or in the kitchen, depending on what they are. And then depending again on what they are, like the fawns, these little guys just came in, a half hour ago. And they are in the favorite spot for fawns. They love being under the desk. They can watch what's going on. They're not afraid. They feel protected, safe in there.
Yeah.
And then they get to be a little more familiar and relaxed around me. And they learn what a bottle is, and they learn how to come for a bottle when they need to. And as soon as they're settled and able to do all those things, then they get out into the yard where the others are, the older ones. But everybody starts out here for at least 24 hours in the kitchen.
Some of the most common reasons for an animal like a baby fawn to come to Kritter Camp are, unfortunately, traffic-related accidents which orphan the babies. Sometimes, however, people will find isolated baby animals on their properties and bring them to Kritter Camp.
And then we have occasions where people will see them and think that they're abandoned because they don't see a mother around, and they don't know that that's what mothers do. When the babies are young, the baby fawns are usually less than 3 to 4 weeks old, they have no scent that would draw in dogs and coyotes. So the mother takes them to where she feels they are going to be safe for the day, tells them to stay there, and they actually listen to her. And then she's out there far enough away that they don't see her, but she can see them. And then she'll come in or call them really to her to feed them once or twice a day if they're real young, and then as they get older, she will leave them all day long and come and pick them all up at dusk and take care of them overnight and probably move them to a new location the next day. This is why we tell people to give it 24 hours. If the mother has moved the babies, that's fine. If the baby is still there the next day, something's happened to the mother because she wouldn't have left them like that.
For as many baby fawns that Anne and Kritter Camp take in each spring, there are always more baby possums and raccoons that come to stay at the rehabilitation center before they too can be released. Many of the animals at Kritter Camp are brought in by locals who find abandoned animals on their yards. However, the local game commission also works very closely with Kritter Camp to help rehabilitate animals they come across who are injured or orphaned. Whenever there's an animal in need, it's usually brought to Anne's doorstep as soon as possible. Usually.
Supposedly, these 3 kids from Armstrong County said that they had found 3 little 5-week-old bear cubs. And I'd been teasing my game warden about it for a long time, telling him to bring me some. Well, he got a hold of these guys, and then he and his family played with them until he was getting tired and wanted to go to bed, and then he called me. So we stayed up all night playing with them, and it was amazing because they were so tiny, their eyes weren't open yet or anything. By morning, they were doing really fine, and the game fellas had found 3 different mothers, each with 2 cubs in their dens. So they took the cubs that I had, took one to each of those dens, rolled them in the leaves that those other cubs were in so everybody would smell the same. And when they went back to tag them a month later, everything seemed to be fine. So we're assuming everybody grew up and had a good life after that. But it was such fun to have these bear cubs because they are so much fun.
Kritter Camp can be home to many other animals besides baby bears and fawns. Anne and her husband can take in all sorts of animals here, like possums, squirrels, rabbits, and raccoons. Kritter Camp is one of very few properly licensed facilities to take in these sorts of animals.
There are only 2 of us on this side of the state that are allowed to do fawns, and only 2 of us on this side of the state that are allowed to do RVS. So it's going to be leaving a big open area there that somebody's not going to be able to take care of something, and they're going to have to go all the way to Pittsburgh or even over to the State College area before they're going to find anybody who can.
Because Kritter Camp covers such a large area, it is important for community members who find animals in danger to know how to properly get help for each furry little friend. If you come across an injured or orphaned animal, you should use gloves to pick up the animal. Place the animal in a box with breathing holes that's lined with cloth. Place that box in a quiet and warm area. Do not give an animal food or water until you've spoken to a rehabber. Do not attempt to keep a wild baby animal, and do not move an animal unless necessary. In addition to having pamphlets for the community, Anne hosts educational presentations for students at local elementary schools and at Yellow Creek State Park. The best educational tools for these sessions are real animals here at Kritter Camp. So Anne uses Penny the possum and Gideon the goose as examples when teaching children how to properly handle a wild animal situation.
Gideon, like most geese and owls especially, they very easily imprint on people if they are around them, especially if that's the first thing they've seen when they hatch. And Gideon hatched out on my lap, so that made me mum. I'd pick Gideon up and carry him in, and he always put his head under my neck, under my chin for a goodnight kiss. But at any rate, he started practicing flying from place to place, and always near the house, never going very far. Well, this one day, he flew too high and too far, and he landed down over the hill. I didn't know where he was. I went hunting and yelling and screaming and trying to find him, driving all over the area, trying to figure out where he was, and couldn't find out. And I thought, well, he's old enough that if he bands up with another group, he'll be okay. He'll probably do fine. And about 4 years later, I got a phone call from a man out on Creekside Road who I had helped the year before with a problem with geese. And he called and he said, I'm covering my plants for winter. And this goose just walked up to me and started talking to me. Not honking at me or anything, he's actually mumbling at me. And the minute I pulled into the driveway, he started jumping up and down in the back of the car and honking just crazily. And I couldn't imagine that it could possibly be Gideon, but I couldn't figure out why the reaction that way either. So the third night he was home, I picked him up and carried him over to the barn, and he put his head under my chin for a goodnight kiss, and I knew Gideon was home.
Kritter Camp has become an important part of the community. With the facility being run completely by donations and solely by Anne and her husband, the future of Kritter Camp is a huge concern.
I hope someone will take over because the area has learned to rely on Kritter Camp to be there when they've found an animal or need some information. And I hope to think that that service will continue because they've got a distance to travel if it doesn't. So I can only hope.
It's important to remember that each little animal Anne takes in is a little life. If you would like to donate to Kritter Camp efforts, or if you find an animal in distress, you can call Anne and Kritter Camp at 724-254-9748, or visit them at 410 Glen Drive, Marion Center, PA.